Welcome back to BK Nothing But Nets podcast. It's me and John today. John from Everything BK Nets. John, this is getting ugly. Outside of Nick Claxton looking like peak Klay Thompson. There's not much to watch here. This is getting hard to watch. The game. First off, any entertainment value? Do you take anything? Do you have any enjoyment watching these games anymore, or is it like homework at this point?
Well, first of all, it's great to talk fun bounce with you, Gary. Listen, I know it's a nightmare what's going on with this team, but you know what? Only 10 more games left, so the nightmare season is almost over. Then we can focus on the fun this season. But if you look at that takeout, I look at players that are trying to fight for something, that players who might not have a future on this team, maybe or not, like guys like Maxwell Lewis and these other youngsters who actually get to play minutes. You want to see what they have. I feel like when you have Claxton, Johnson, D'Lo playing, it's like, we already know what they've done. But to see Claxton hit 2 threes yesterday when he's only hit 4 in his career and now he has 6, like, okay, you made $100 million. You wait till the end of the season and start showing what you can actually do. Like those things to me are like the ones that are like, I don't really take much away from that. But seeing young guys that are trying to fight for roles in this team actually show you some growth here or there, I think that's what the season was intended to be about. So I look at some of those things that I could take away from the season. But yeah, it's been a nightmare. This team doesn't have an offensive identity right now. In February, Jordy had the makings of some type of defensive identity that's kind of gone to the wayside. Now they were clearly trying to protect this lottery pick. So I feel like this summer in the draft, you want to start getting pieces that can help you create the offensive identity, because if you keep some of these other pieces that give you the defense, I think you start building something slightly a little bit more balanced than we had this season. So it'll be interesting to see how we start constructing this roster really this upcoming summer.
I'm watching the game, and I think for the most part they're doing the right thing. They started Tyrese Martin, Keon Johnson, Nick Claxton, Zaire, and Cam Johnson, and all of that is fine. And I get what they're doing. And I'm not saying that they're doing anything wrong. This is the lineup you should be playing. But where's Whitehead?
That's a great question. I know he said that he wanted to stay in the G League to work on his craft, but at the end of the day, when we're trying to not win a whole lot of games, you have opportunities to come up. So I think Whitehead kind of did himself a little disservice. I know he needs to get healthy, but I was expecting to see him start playing some games this last stretch of the season. But I feel like he's really on the bubble. He hasn't played much of anything in his first 2 years. So if he doesn't have a role going to next summer, or at least be on his team next year, and if we draft well, it's hard to see a guy like Whitehead have a long-term spot on this team. You could attribute that to injury, him not catching up quick enough, but still, like, he's one of those players that you kind of feel like he doesn't have a long-term future. And some other guys too that are kind of trying to find a role in this team, but they might get asked out because you draft better. So there are definitely some players that should be getting run right now that aren't, and I think that's a detriment to their futures on this team. Maybe that's by design, maybe it's not, but those some players like Dariq Whitehead who could be on the bubble this summer.
I wanted to address this. Iceman says G League. He's in the G League, doesn't have his legs back yet. All right. Well, I'm not saying he needs to play 30 minutes a game. He should be on the court. Like, he doesn't have his legs back. It's March 25th. I mean, what do we? He's a guy that you think may be here beyond next year. Well, he's got a 4-year deal, obviously, first round pick, so he's going to be here. He's shown some flashes where he can shoot the 3, right? Like, he's showing you something. I understand that what he said. I understand what you would like, and I would like you to play in the NBA to see what we got. You know, is that like an unreasonable request, John?
It's not a reasonable request, and we're going to play a clip of Jordan a little bit, talking about what he expects these last 10 games, but the vet should kind of just be rested right now. The season's almost done. April 13, I believe, is the last game of the season. Like, the young guys who aren't getting run right now should be alongside kids like Maxwell Lewis, getting burned to see if they fit this team's mold right now. I don't think the vet should be taking up any more 30-plus minute performances, because what's the point? You're just bumping stats at that point to bump stats, instead of actually letting the young guys get more minutes to see if they can handle a role on this team. But we're not getting that right now. Hopefully in a day or two that will change. But if it's going to keep going the way it is, then how are we prioritizing player development? I understand what I'm saying. The kid Whitehead needs to get his legs back under, but the season's almost over. I know G League is almost over, so shouldn't he be getting called up to at least get some burn to see what he can actually do? Because I feel like we got him with one of our first-round picks. Like, he should be getting minutes at least right now. So if he's not, I think that's hurting him more and pushing him more backwards as opposed to letting him come forwards a bit. And also Drew Tim, I know you're high on that guy too. Why is he getting up? He had 50 points.
Why not just say, I don't know if I'm high on him. He had a 50-point game, a 40-point G League game. I don't know. He could be good. He could suck. But, like, let's take a look. Like, let's see what he is.
Exactly. And we should, and we're not right now. So hopefully that changes in the next 2 games. But if not, I feel like some of these youngsters are kind of getting a bad rub here.
We don't know what Drew Timmy is, but we do know what one man is, and that man is Nick Claxton, and that's Pete Klay Thompson. He's Klay Thompson 2.0.
I can't. I need some coffee.
2 for 2 from long yesterday, from long range. 2 for 2. That's what did you say was his 5th and 6th 3-pointers made of his 6-year career?
Yeah, before that it was 4, one he made last year. So yeah.
So this is his 3rd this season, correct?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, it's his 3rd of the season.
Look, I make nothing of this. I don't even whatever. He hit 2 threes. I don't know what to make of that. I don't really take much away from it. I don't think he's going to be a stretch 5 or any. And I don't think this means that he can play the 4 because he hit 2 threes in one game. But his shot's ugly. It looks bad. It went down for him twice. What are your thoughts on Nick Claxton?
God. Listen, I feel like it's too little too late with salvaging the season. I think this investment so far by Sean Marks was an egregious error. I think some people have said he probably should have walked or signed trade him. You definitely were more than 100% right on that one. Just because this season, he hasn't shown you any offensive evolution. He's made 3 to 5 mid-range shots. He made 3 threes this season, like whoop-de-doo. It's nothing to write home about. And you look at his performances overall against old players, young players, players who win on teams. He's had a lot of mediocre performances. Some of his best performances have been against guys like Taj Gibson and Joel Embiid on one leg, but you look at that in its context. Did he really dominate those guys when they were at their best? That's where you kind of just weigh with Claxton's season. And he also had some performances where he had a game winner, 10 assists, 2 threes, but it's like too far in between. That's the thing about Claxton's career. He's shown you things that he can do from his college days, but it's so far little in between. And if we have to get 2 superstars to make Claxton show us more consistently, I feel like it's a waste of our assets just to make Claxton's game better. So this summer, I think the best way to get off of this Claxton contract is to hopefully trade it to a team like the Lakers, because if Claxton's going to keep giving you these little spurts and little moments every 10 or 15 games, it's not worth it at this point, because he's really an undersized power forward, like you said, Gary, who can guard 1 through 4 on occasion, but struggles mightily against the 5. I saw Davis yesterday. Claxton was going up. He didn't do anything.
Ate his lunch for him. Remember, Bismarck Biombo went to Nick Claxton's house, took his lunch and ate it in front of him.
Yeah, Bismarck Biombo, Jalen Duran, Moose Diabate, who I think is a forward. But even yesterday, I saw Davis up against him by the rim. Davis didn't even play any defense. All Claxton did was a hook shot that went off the rim. Like, it's just you were hoping to see more this season with Claxton. I feel like a lot of fans got disappointed in that, and he's also becoming a father. He was going through mood swings. I feel like this summer Claxton needs to refocus and find a way to coexist in Jordy's system, or else you just have to trade him at that point. So it'll be very interesting to see where Claxton's future goes past this summer, because I don't feel like it's good right now on Brooklyn.
All right, I want to bring this up again, all right, because everyone, well, not everyone, but there's been fanboys out there praising Nick Claxton. Nick Claxton may have had the best game of the season for him, and we're in March. He had 19 points and 7 rebounds and a block. You get my point, John? If this is what we're writing home about, he's turning it around now in March, because he had one game of 19 and 7. We can conclude decisively, because we're excited about a 19 and 7 game, that he's not the one. Is that fair?
Listen, I don't see him as the one. And here's the thing: I even asked you the other day, how many plus or minuses has he had since you started tracking? You said he had 2 pluses out of almost like 30 games. That's a huge disappointment. I know people could say, "Oh, Claxton doesn't have the stars to help him." Why should he need help when he got gifted $100 million? You get paid that money, you're expected to improve and evolve in a season where it was supposed to be about player development, and Claxton went backwards a lot of the ways. And that's on him. It can't be on the coach staff. Coach staff has done everything they can to try to help Claxton evolve his game, and Claxton hasn't taken that to heart and shown his improvements on a consistent basis. Showing this every 1 out of 10 games is not improvement. So I feel like this summer we just have to find a way to move his contract, because he's clearly not a center that we could rely on to carry offense on his own without a lot of help. And we're just not in the position to build around Claxton right now. So hopefully we can just figure out a way to finagle ourselves out of it this summer, because it's just not looking good from an optics standpoint and a contract standpoint. So there's a lot to look at there this summer, and hopefully we can find a way out of this, because we're stuck with it right now at this point.
I want to address this again. Nick Claxton played 26 minutes, 41 seconds, was a minus 11. Now, it's not a perfect 48, because they did for about 2 minutes have them on the court together. minus 11. Day'Ron Sharpe, not his best day, minus 6. But you can still see they're worse when they have Nick Claxton. It's not a one-off. It's not a one-time deal. Every single game now, outside of 2, they are worse with Nick Claxton on the court than Day'Ron Sharpe. It's not a one-off. They are worse with Nick Claxton. I'm going to keep doing this because I told you I'm going to do this every game, no matter what it looks like. They are worse every game with Nick Claxton on the court. I can't be the only one that notices this, right? Like Doug Norrie lives for this stuff. Like he lives for the plus minuses on Locked On Nets. He has to be noticing this too, right? Like it's every game.
Yeah, it's definitely disappointing. And you think about this too, Claxton by himself, he gets crushed. I mean, look at the Mavs yesterday. They had Anthony Davis, I guess, as the forward because he doesn't want to play center, and you had Kai Jones, I guess, as the center, and they were crushing it, lob dunks, all that. I feel like with the Nets, if you somehow keep Claxton on this team, you have to get a center in this draft or a forward that can play alongside him because Claxton is the lone big man. His weaknesses get exposed really badly, and that's why I feel like for the Nets, they have to get a big forward and a big center and eventually have those two on the same court together because we can't have just one big on the court at all times playing small ball. We got to get out of that mindset and philosophy that Sean Marks have been trying to engraze on this team the last few years because we've just gotten crushed on the rebounding effort and got crushed on defensive effort too. So if you keep Claxton on this team, you got to get another big next to him or a big forward. And if you get rid of Claxton, get a big center and draft a big forward. Like we have to get bigger as a team. And Claxton as the main guy as your center, undersized center, is not helping us really build much of anything at the position. So this summer, if we could reset that center position, puts us in a much better position than we are right now based off the recent bad performances.
I wanted to ask you about this, and let's start with that, and then we'll get to Cam Johnson. If the Nets draft a center, what happened, Maluak, let's say? What happens with Claxton? I saw one tweet out there in Nets Twitter sphere saying that Maluak would play the 4. Can you play another big with Claxton? I mean, Claxton's just going to clock things up. If you put another 5 with him, I feel like it would have to be Karl Anthony Towns or someone like that. Like, it's his offensive game just so bad, and it's just so predicated at being 3 feet and in from the basket that you can't really play him at the 4. That he has to play the 5, and he's just going to clock things up if you get another big.
Yeah, and first of all, I don't know who said Maluak's a 4. He's clearly a 5. He's a 7-footer.
Yeah.
He plays center at Duke, so if we got him, he would be the replacement.
Chet and Wemby are 4s, and they're 7-footers.
Right, but he would essentially be the replacement. You know, I've talked about a big solution for this summer. If we have to draft Maluak with our lottery pick, we have to work backwards here. Let's do it. Trade Claxton to the Lakers for expiring salary, whatever draft capital you can get. Re-sign Day'Ron on the cheap. You have Maluak and Day'Ron as your future center duo. You get rid of Claxton's money, which would be expiring salaries, which would come off the books the following year. That literally gets us in a better position than we are right now, paying this guy $20 million the next 3 years. It's an easy solution if Marks and the organization actually take it seriously this summer. But if you get Maluak, you can't play him with Claxton. That's essentially a 5 with undersized 4. And Claxton offensively has no game. So if we draft a Maluak, or if we get Derek Queen, maybe there's a chance you could play him at the 4 and Claxton at the 5. But still, having Claxton on with his contract on the books just isn't helping us right now. So if you get Queen or Maluak, trade Claxton, re-sign Day'Ron, and just have the expiring cap space for next summer to make bigger moves. It's your only out right now with Claxton this summer. And if he's somehow still on the books, I feel like we're stuck in a no man's land, just giving him his money and hoping a team does take him at a low value. But if they don't want him right now, what makes you think they want him if his value gets even lower at this point?
And this was my concern about Marks and Claxton and his contract. He just signed Claxton last year to a 4-year deal. My concern is that Sean Marks, who doesn't like big men to start with, is now going to pass on drafting good big men because we have our center. We have 25-year-old Nick Claxton for the future. We don't need no center. We're good. That's my concern about having Claxton right now. If you look at it, BC, who's a Lakers fan, who was open to trading for Claxton in the past, is no longer open to trading for Claxton. And this is my other concern, is he's playing so bad, he's going to lose all of his trade value. So I see a guy with diminishing trade value on a team that doesn't value big men, who is going to stop Sean Marks from drafting other big men and settling on having Nick Claxton as our 5 for years to come. You see what I'm saying, John?
Yeah, no, definitely, because there's two cases. There's a case made against why nobody should touch Claxton, and there's also a slight case where you should trade Claxton. I look at the Lakers right now; they've been in bad rhythm, BC, for the last few weeks since LeBron went down. They're trying to regain the consistency. And let's remember, Jackson Hayes was supposed to be a backup when they were supposed to get Mark Williams. That deal went to hell, so they had to make Jackson Hayes a starter, and he's not a real starting big in this league. So this summer, the Lakers have to figure out how can they build around Luka now, because LeBron, he might come back on a 1-year deal before he calls it a career, and they still going to need a big man. They don't. Alex Lynn, I think they're going to waive him soon, so they need a big man this summer. Not a lot of options. So at least with Claxton, he's shown you if you could get 2 stars around him, he could play you some defense and he could score a lot of lobs. And I feel like the Lakers don't have a lot of options this summer. So I'd say, like, as bad as Claxton's value is right now, the Lakers realistically are only out this summer. If it doesn't happen, damn, that sucks. But there's still a little silver lining that the Lakers are going to be forced to have to make a move for a big. And at least Claxton is the most healthy available out of a lot of the bigs that are going to be available this summer, which is a very small list. So I feel like we still have it out there, but we'll see what happens this summer. There are 2 cases right now why you shouldn't go after him, and there's a case why you maybe should go after him. And I feel like the Lakers are in no man's land right now trying to get a big to build around Luka.
Yeah. The only question is, look, are they going to value Nick Claxton enough to pay him $25 million? They look at him and say, yeah, he helps us, but I can't pay him $25 million. That's going to eat too much of my cap space. It's not like we'll take Rui back from you. And what else? What else can we take from him, John?
I think they might try to give us Vince if the Lakers want to open up some extra cap space, maybe go after somebody that they want to get on the team, and maybe a second round pick, or they have the 2031 pick, which is not going to be a huge pick to us, but still we'll take it if that's all they want to give us at that point.
Yeah, I'm just looking to get him. I don't even care what we get. Just get the contract.
But yeah,
like
it would
Ben
be
Simmons at this point. Just get the contracts off the books, and anyone will take it.
Right. It would have to be, I think, a combination of Rui, Vincent, whatever capital they want to give us at that point. I'm fine with that. That expiring salary gives us some money for 2026, which looks a lot better free agency-wise than this summer does. So we're actually making moves to build for the future while getting off a bad contract. Literally, this is how you reset a center position strategically. And I hope Marks actually starts thinking strategically, because right now with Claxton's money in the books, we're stuck in no man's land with his contract. This summer, if we could get off it, get some expiring salaries, we're in a better position going to the following year and can start making bigger moves like some of you people want for this team.
2 things I wanted to ask you about. Maxwell Lewis, 4 for 6, 9 points, pretty good game. He's been a bright spot, has he not? What are your thoughts on the little bit that Maxwell Lewis has played for the Nets this year?
Yeah, I mean, I call him the crown jewel, Maxwell Lewis. Yeah, listen, ever since he's come on in the last week or 2, he's been giving you energy. He's been a spark plug, made a few threes, made some mid-range shots. Like, he cares about wanting a role in this team. Let's remember, he was riding the Lakers bench for 2 years. They made like 7 or 14 appearances, so not a whole lot there. So this is really his first legit opportunity since the draft to really prove he could do something in the NBA. Now, do I see him as a future starter? Hell no. Do I see him as a bench piece? But do I see him as a third stringer maybe that could get some minutes when players need a rest? Yes, I definitely could, because Maxwell Lewis is giving you that energy, he's giving you that focus, and he wants to show that he could be a potential player on this team next year. That's what I want to see this season. In a player development season, young guys who don't have roles try to earn something on this team. And Maxwell right now is trying to earn something, so I hope he could finish this season strong and maybe put himself in a conversation for some type of role on this team going to next year. So let's see what happens there.
Yeah, that was. I mean, do you see a role for him on the team next year?
I think a third stringer where he could play some games where whoever we draft and whoever's still on this bench needs rest days. You could see a kid like Maxwell Lewis get burned. I think that's the type of role he would fit on this team. I don't know about a backup, though, primarily.
I mean, there's going to be, assuming we draft 5 guys, which I don't think we're going to draft 5 guys. I think we're going to draft 3 or 4. Then you're going to sign some. You're going to sign some free agents. There's going to be a lot of turnover on this roster next year. I project you're going to see about 6 different guys. So someone's got to go, right? Like, I mean, it's not a knock on Maxwell Lewis, but there's just not going to be enough roster spots for a guy like that. Now, that brings me to my next question. Jalen Wilson, I think, is basically useless. I like Jalen Wilson. I rooted for him. And every time he touched the ball yesterday on the Mavericks telecast, they said Jalen Wilson from Geiger High School in Denton. The guy lives 10 minutes from me. I'm a fan of him, right? But he's not going to be here next year, I don't think. And then the other one I wanted to ask you was Watford. You've hated on Watford a lot early. He missed most of the season, especially the first half of the season. Is Turner Watford a guy that you expect to see? You know, he's on an expiring deal Is he a guy that the Nets look to bring back next year?
It's hard to see what type of role he fits on his team because he's primarily a combo point guard and forward. And if you re-sign a D'Lo or Zaire Williams and their backup players, where does Wofford fit at that point? So you really have to see who you draft, who does stay on this team from this season, and if Wofford still has a role. Let's remember he hasn't had a primary contract yet, so if he comes back on this team, I don't see anything more than an $8 to $10 million salary at most if they actually value him to a certain degree. I don't see him making 12 13 mil to come back to his team. So he would have to be willing to take a slight pay increase, but nothing too crazy or major to stay on this team because mostly he serves a backup combo role. But if you have players in those positions, he's probably not going to play a whole lot of minutes unless he has a primary role in this team. So you have to see who we draft and who we re-sign this summer. I feel like that's going to dictate if Wofford has a role in this team right now. I can't say for certain that he has a guaranteed role because we still have a lot that has to go down before free agency.
The last guy I wanted to ask you about, Day'Ron Sharpe. He's on an expiring deal. He obviously has value. They're going to have to pay him to some degree. I don't know what his demand is. I don't know what his free market value is. We'll find out. We've guessed somewhere between 10 million, 12 million, maybe go low as 8 in this offseason because it's not a great year to be a free agent. But what are your thoughts on if Day'Ron Sharpe will be back?
I definitely think there's a little ray of hope that you could re-sign him on a very cheap deal if you draft a center in this draft and trade Claxton on draft night this summer. Because having Day'Ron as a backup, he's shown you he could be like a Andre Drummond with a three-point shot. He's not afraid to take threes. He's given you a lot of good minutes as a backup with his rebounding. Now his dribble game and foul trouble still worries you, but still, if you get him on a cheap contract, you get rid of Claxton, it works for us as far as trying to figure out the center position. And there's some really good bigs in this draft. Common Maluak, Derek Queen, Thomas Sorber, Maxine Renard, who Ice really told me about a lot, and I've looked at his stats. He's a really good potential prospect as well. So I feel like if you could get rid of Claxton this summer, you could definitely bring Day'Ron back for the cheap to be your primary backup and let whoever you draft have a crack of being your new starting center. I feel like that's a great way to set up the center position and let Day'Ron continue to try to evolve his game. I feel like he hasn't gotten a whole lot of minutes because Claxton takes up so much time, and he has way more worse performances than Day'Ron does on most nights. So if you re-sign Day'Ron, he could potentially see a bump in minutes just because he would essentially be the vet, whereas whoever we draft would be the rookie. So it'll be interesting to see how they divvy up those responsibilities. But yeah, you could see Day'Ron back, but it would probably hinge on Claxton going. I don't see us keeping Day'Ron, Claxton, and a new big though.
That's exactly my thoughts. If you have Claxton, who you're paying $25 million to, and you pay Day'Ron another 10, that's $35 million committed to the center position, and you're getting poor play out of the center position. Plus, now you're going to draft. I would imagine you're going to draft another big. So you're going to have $35 million plus a first round pick tied up in a big, and I see Sharpe being a casualty here unless they can move Claxton.
Right. It really does hinge on moving Claxton. Yeah. It does. So we'll just see how that all happens. But if you get rid of Claxton, you get rid of some of that money that you would have tied up at the big position, and we could start fresh. I feel like the Nets really need to do that because you have all these bigs now coming to the league, and the Nets are still playing small ball. Once we get out of that mindset and actually get a big, and you keep Day'Ron, I think center position wise, rebounding will be so much better, and we can actually start competing with the bigs on a daily night. And if we don't win those games, as long as the performances are consistent, that's what you take away from actual development. And Claxton right now is just kind of stuck. What we've seen.
Guys that we don't know who are going to be here. Cam Johnson. I don't understand what they were doing with Cam Johnson. He's the only guy. He's the only veteran that plays. I don't understand why he's playing and Derek Whitehead isn't. I don't understand why he's playing and guys like Lewis and Clowney aren't getting more minutes. I don't understand why every single day everybody else sits, but Cam Johnson plays 30-plus minutes a game. It was 30 minutes yesterday, not 37 like it has been. But what is going on? Why is Cam Johnson? Everyone else is getting rest. Everyone else is sitting. Everyone else is getting injury management, whatever. Why is Cam Johnson still playing 30 minutes a game plus every game?
Apparently he owns a stock with Brooklyn now. No, but listen, he's now given the leader tag. I think a leader is somebody that has a set role in this team, is going to be part of his team in the long run, that actually knows how to get players to actually build something. With Johnson, let's remember, he got gifted $90 million because Marks thought his twin, his non-biological twin, would want to be on his team long term. He got gifted $90 million, and he was having bad performances, averaging 13 points as a former lottery pick. Yes, he had 3 great months this season and matching Kevin Durant's stat line, but his dad made him a leader, and then he had a bad 3-point performance in the All-Star break when he was talking about representing this team. I don't want somebody representing my team as a leader when they have bad performances like that, and they're just doing a lot of this. And when you look at the results overall, this guy would be a 4th, 5th option on a real team. On this team, he has to be a 2nd or 3rd option because we have nobody better. So I don't think that earns him a leadership title in my mind. But if Marks wants to parade him as the leader for these young guys, okay, but that's not going to get you anywhere. So I think if you trade Johnson this summer, we're in a much better position like with Claxton. But him playing all these games at the end of the season makes no sense. And I think Garrett's the time to play the Jordy quote. Let's listen to Jordy quote because I think I have more to say after we listen to that.
Give me a second. Yeah. Because I want what is the direction of this team? What direction is this team moving? If you're trying to develop the young, I don't even want to use the word tank. If you're trying to develop the young players and you're trying to see what you have in them, don't you have to play them? Don't you have to see what and playing
that you approach things in terms of trying new things tonight and the playoffs looking more out of reach? Does that at all change the way that you approach things in terms of trying new things or trying to get looks at different people in different positions or
not? The approach is the same. It's get 1% better and go out there and compete and fight for the game, no matter who's out there. And I think we've done the whole year. Whether, like our main purpose is, like I said, get better and see who's the next net and who's going to be here for a long run. And obviously we have a job to do and evaluate. And, it's good to see all the guys that haven't played as much, like Max, for instance, right? He's done a good job. So, that's going to be our goal is to keep doing what we're doing and doing it in this way. But obviously those minutes have to be played extremely hard and the right way and competing. So, like we said, whatever lineups we've had out there throughout the year and moving forward, they're going to go out there and fight and compete.
John, I'll let you respond to that real quick. It's frustrating because I don't know what direction they're going in. I'm going to let you respond to that, and then I'll give my thoughts.
Yeah, and we're going to show another video on this, but I think one of our main focus today is the communication and message style of this team this year. I think it's been very divisive with the base, but some people are going like, wow, they're saying we're all the right things, but when it comes to the actions of the right things, they don't add up. That's why this season there's some mixed results. Us overperforming the beginning of the season, then starting to tank a little bit. Then we started winning. We had that winning month of February without Cam Thomas, which is wild, but we did because Jordy established a defensive program. And then we were a half a game. Guys, let's remember this. We were a half a game out of a play-in spot, which we weren't supposed to be nowhere near this season. And thankfully, I think Jordy, Sean, and Joe finally had a bottle of scotch and realized, what the hell are we doing? If we're in the playing spot, our odds of getting a top pick this year go to kaput, and we essentially gave the Rockets a whole bunch of free assets for nothing. So then the organization started to wake up. We started losing a lot of games, and now we're near the 5th or 6th odds, which look likely where we're going to finish up at if we lose to the Raptors this week. So that we're in a much better position than we were, but still, if the organization actually communicated things more effectively and everybody was on the same page, could the results have been what they were actually supposed to be? Maybe, but some people don't believe in taking on purpose. Nobody rewards that. They don't want to get fines. But let's remember, Joe Tsai has collected a lot of money the last few years. So I don't think fines are something he would necessarily worry about if the money keeps coming into the organization. But still, some people want to look at this now as an ethical tank. Okay. But still, this organization, the messaging this year has been all off kilter. And now Jordy's saying we have to focus on who could the next net be. Well, I see a Derek Whitehead, a Killian Hayes, and a Drew Tim who should be getting burned these last 10 games to see if they could be the next net of the future. I don't see why Johnson, D'Lo, and Claxton are still playing all these minutes when we don't even know if they're going to be on this team this summer. I don't see them as nets of the future next 2-3 years. So let the young guys get burned. But even Jordy's messaging makes me go, okay, so when is Johnson, D'Lo, and Claxton going to get rest? When the young guy's going to get run? That's what we got to figure out if that statement was true or not.
Well, I don't mind Claxton playing for 2 reasons. A, because he's a great tank piece. If you want to lose games, play Claxton all 48 minutes. You'll lose some games. That's A. And B is, do you know what we have in Claxton? Like, don't you have to decide whether or not we're going to keep him or not? Like, I don't mind playing Claxton for those 2 reasons. Like, I don't know if he's going to be a part of the team next year, and he helps you lose.
He's our new tank commander.
He's a new tank commander. He helps. You play him 48 minutes. And then the other question, where the hell is Reese Beekman?
Oh, no, he's flying. No, listen, Reese is in the G League. I think the same thing with his two-way, like with Tucson. They have certain games that they have to play until, and they'll be ineligible. So maybe they want to just keep his games low there and use them for next year, like with Tucson. So that's what that was. But yeah, even him, could have been our take commander. I'm just surprised we're not using his games during these last 10 games to guarantee the lottery pick is all but protected. It's just when Jordy makes statements like that, it's like, Jordy, I want to believe that you want these young guys to get burned, but you're still relying on the vets to carry these young guys for all these minutes. Why not let these young guys get up to 25 to 30 minutes to feel what that's like, to see if they could be a net of the future? But he's not. So I have to see if he actually means that statement if Johnson, Deal, and Claxton don't play these next 2 or 3 games to verify that.
Iceman said they said their teams would show it will have interest in Cam Johnson in the summer. It's possible that he could be moved in. Look, yes, teams are going to have interest in him. I agree with you. My only concern is that Marks likes him, and that when Marks likes someone, he's here for life. So I don't think if Cam Johnson doesn't get moved, I don't think it's for lack of interest from other teams. I think it's because Sean Marks values him more than anyone else and won't trade him. John, what are your thoughts on that?
I just don't understand what makes Johnson so enticing as a leader. Listen, he says a lot of things on podcasts about how he redo All-Star Game. He talks about the Suns, what made them so good. You know what made the Suns so good? They drafted players, and they got an all-star point guard in Chris Paul who helped carry them a lot of the way to that finals. I know Johnson wasn't carrying as a leader during that time because he was still a youngster, and even Jay Crowder was pissed off when he took his spot. So, listen, Johnson says a lot of things, but you look at what he is over a player, he's a role piece. He's not exactly a second or third option that you compare with a star. So when he gets thrown that leader title, it's like, what are we doing here? He has a salary that some veteran teams could want, like a Spurs or OKC on draft night. So why not trade for their lottery pick and get Johnson off this team? I don't see why he's a long-term fit. How many iterations could be a part of at age 30? I don't understand. Like, it feels like Marks is just trying to say he's the lone vet we got. He's making a lot of money, and he's been to a finals before. Okay, you went to a finals before. Well, were you a main piece carrying them to the finals? No. That's why this Johnson leadership stuff needs to get snipped in the butt this summer, and hopefully he gets traded, or else we have to be stuck with Johnson as the leader, Gary, leading us to I don't know what.
But the frustrating part is in that finals run, where the Suns went to the finals, he didn't even play well in it. It's not like he played well in the finals and in the Western Conference Finals where he was averaging 18 points on efficient. He didn't play well, and it was so bad that Crowder quit basketball. He quit the Suns over him getting minutes, him starting. That's what his teammates thought of him. I don't really understand the Cam Johnson thing. Look, he has some value. He can run three-point line to three-point line. He's overpaid. The contract's not great, Mark. And there are teams that you can unload him on. Like on certain, like I said, if we had Giannis, if we had Zion, I'd maybe keep him. Right? Like, he's going to have value if you have a guy like that and you need to surround him with shooters. I would look at that. But on this team, he's a role player. And I keep asking this question over and over again. Who's he playing the role to?
And here's another thing. If you somehow get lucky with Asa Cooper, they're likely starting over Johnson. It would be wild if Johnson's playing the 3 and they're playing the 4.
Asa Cooper, he's got to go. He's not going to go because Sean Marks is here. That's what's so frustrating about this. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I understand he's given the leader title because he's one of the vets on his team because he has the experience. But overall, if he was on a contending team, he'd be a 4th or 5th option. So I think it's ludicrous to say that this guy is going to be a huge part of a future. And he's going to be 30. I don't know how many iterations Marks has in his head about Johnson, but I don't see Johnson playing great basketball or good basketball till around 34, 35 at best, and that's barring any injuries. So, there's not a whole lot of iterations that Johnson realistically fits with this team unless we go after a Giannis this summer. But does Giannis really want a Johnson as his second or third guy? No, that doesn't make any sense. So it feels like we'd be selling tickets with the star, but Johnson would not be giving you what he's giving you right now. For anybody who thinks that Johnson can maintain this Kevin Durant stat line for the next 2 to 3 years, seriously, he wouldn't have done this if he was on a good team right now, averaging that. He's doing this on a bad team because he has to be a second or third option.
Mark says that Cam Johnson was in his second year. He was 25 years old. He's the same age Claxton is now, John. I mean,
He got you there, Mark. He got
He's
you
25
there.
years old. I mean, he's at his peak. He's 25. I mean, the guy was in college for 5 years. Like, he's what he is.
Wow.
Fourth option to get paid in the NBA, and he got paid. Right? He got paid $22 million. Why did the Nets give it to him, John? And Mark, you call him John. Mark, why did the Nets give it? He's a fourth option. Okay, great. If a fourth option gets paid $22 million, which they don't, but let's pretend that they do. Who are the first three options, Mark? Like, it doesn't make any sense to have him here. It's like
Right.
it's just what if like they signed Chris Paul to $20 million? It's like, well, to do what role? Like, he's with now. We're rebuilding. We don't have any veterans. It wouldn't make any sense to have him here. It didn't make any sense when they signed him. Mark, you know, and I know, they gave him that money to keep Bridges happy because they thought Bridges was an all-star. So you misassess Cam Johnson, you misassess Bridges, and then Bridges was so unhappy that he demanded a trade to your crosstown rivals that next season. Everything here was booted. Everything here was fumbled. You misassess how good Cam Johnson was. That was a horrible mistake. You misassessed how good Mikal Bridges was. That was a mistake. Then you said, okay, well, as long as we keep Bridges happy, he'll stay. So we'll sign Cam Johnson. So you signed Cam Johnson, and then Bridges said, I want to be traded to the Knicks. Like, I don't understand what you're defending here anymore.
Right. And let's be honest, when we traded Kevin Durant to the Suns for Bridges Johnson, we should have started the rebuild right there. We should have just traded those two guys as soon as that half of the season was over.
Mark thought you could build a team around two role players. That was his problem.
Yeah, he thought they were
retarded when you made the trade. I've never seen a player of Kevin Durant's magnitude get traded for ancillary role players. Like, I've never seen anything like it before.
Right, and the crazy thing was Marks thought that he could recruit a Donovan Mitchell to come to this team to play with Bridges and Johnson because Bridges and him were friends. But still, that was idiotic in itself looking back on it now because it didn't happen. He was supposed to move off him at that point. Both of them, not just Bridges, but Johnson as well. And then you kept Johnson. So in Mark's mind, he was desperate enough to try to keep a window open that was closed. As soon as Katie and Kyrie were done, we were done. We needed to start from scratch, start fresh. Doe should have been traded for 2 firsts when OKC was offering it. But they didn't want to take back the contract with it. Screw the contract. I'll take the picks for Doe any day of the week. And we didn't do that either. And then we had Dennis on this team for some weird reason. Like, there was so many mistakes that almost backfired dramatically on his team that we are fortunate that we got those 6 picks from the Knicks because they don't know how to value talent the right way. But other than that, like, we have, this summer is so damn important, and to trust Marks and Joe to lead this team when so many times the decisions that backfired, it's like a 50-50 gamble again. Like, either this works or we're screwed again, and there is no recovery if we get screwed again.
I want to address Quest One here. What are your thoughts on trading Cam Thomas? The front office doesn't believe in him, and fans don't want to see him on the team. So would be good question, best for everyone. All right, I want to address a couple things there. I'm going to drop the link for Mark. We're going to get into this Cam Johnson thing one more time because, you know, there's 10 games left in the season. We have to talk about something. All right, this is a really good question, Quest. What's your thoughts on trading CT? The front office doesn't believe in him. I agree. I like him way more than the front office does. That's for sure. And the fans don't want to see him on the team. I don't know that that's true. I think there's a lot of fans that like him. I think he's polarizing to the fans. I think there's some fans that love him and some fans that don't want to see him here. So it would be best. The front office doesn't like him. I think it's very possible that he could get traded. I think he's going to sign an extension. I think that extension is going to be team friendly, which makes him a very viable piece in a trade. If I could give you Cam Thomas at $22 million a year and bring in a star like Zion, I think that's appealing to both teams, right? They saved $18 million, the Pelicans, by trading Zion and bringing in Cam Thomas, who'll be making 22 instead of 40. And then you could also maybe throw in Claxton or Sharp in that trade too. And then now the salaries are gonna match. So I think it's very. I don't want to see him traded. I love Cam Thomas, but I think that's a good question by Quest. I think it's very possible that they do trade him this offseason. John,
right? Great. That's a great question, Quest. And we've kind of discussed, I think, in one of our last two streams. Like, listen, at the end of the day, I think Thomas showed you some things this year. He worked on the playmaking, the rebound, the defense was a little better. But, towards the second half when he was injured a lot, that kind of went away, but the playmaking was still good. I think we were all surprised that Thomas only played so many less games because this was a huge contract year for him to really put the doubters in the mud and show that he could be a foundational piece. We still don't know if he's a foundational piece. I said this on Breezy's show that this upcoming season, if Thomas is back with us, is the most important in his career as far as he can show he can handle a starter's role, and that's playing over 50 games a season. So if you re-sign him to a $22 million contract, I call it the bargain deal of the decade because we have so much flexibility with his contract, with his future, and if the team sees him as a part of our timeline or as a piece to get us a star down the road. Re-signing him this summer is really paramount because you don't want him taking a qualifying offer, going to another team for free. That is the worst case scenario, and I think will be the final nail in Sean Marks' career as a NBA GM. So he has to re-sign Thomas to a fair deal this summer, and we can actually kind of have that flexibility to figure out his future and how to make bigger moves down the line. So yeah, Quest One, if they can re-sign to a fair deal this summer, puts us in a great place going to the next year or two.
Let me ask you this. Would you be open to having him be the major piece in a trade for Zion or Ja? Or what are some of the other names that might get traded this offseason, some of the big names?
Giannis, LaMelo, Trey,
Giannis,
and
well, obviously we'd be okay with trading him if we're getting Giannis, but Trey, I don't want to make that trade. I don't like this. I like the other. I'm just not big on Trey.
Right. And your Zion thing is interesting, but I even said, Gary, I don't think you have to give Thomas up for him. I look at a Johnson or Claxton with 2 picks. That's fair deal for Zion because, yes, you've been healthy the last 2 months, about 2 months, but you were unhealthy for the last 3 to 4 years with 1 year between where you played over 60 games. I still don't see Zion as that guy you have to give up a haul for. And if the Pelicans don't want to give him up for a Claxton and 2 picks, well, we don't have to do business with you. I'm not going to give you Thomas unless I know I'm getting a star that's going to be healthy for multiple years and will lead us somewhere. If we get Zion for Claxton and 2 picks, I got to see for the first year if Zion could be healthy, physically, mentally, and show us that he can actually be what he was in Duke. So I'm not giving up Thomas for him if I do a sign and trade. I'd rather give up Claxton and 2 picks, and if the Pelicans don't want that, then we're not giving him anything for Zion at that point.
He wants Ball. I would love to trade for Ball. I guess we're going to see. Is Ball available? Is it going to be made available in a trade? I've heard rumors before that. I can't see it. I've heard these rumors.
It depends on who they draft. It depends on who they draft. If they get the 3rd pick, Dylan made an interesting point. They can actually go after Edgecombe. They already have Brandon Williams, so they already have a forward. So that could be something that could dictate LaMelo's future. But let's remember, LaMelo has to get those. I call them twiggles. He has twigs for ankles. He has to get those healthy. Listen, if LaMelo was healthy, you look at his points, rebounding, assists. They're pretty decent, and he has marketability. He's very popular with the young base. That could be something Brooklyn could utilize as an asset, but he has to be healthy. I'm not going to give a big offer for him either unless he could show he's healthy for a long stretch of time. So I would put him with Zion, whereas I could give you a Johnson or Claxton and 2 picks. Take it or leave it, Charlotte or Pelicans. I'm not giving you anything else for that.
What are your thoughts, Mark, on trading Cam Thomas as a piece for as the major
Hey, Mark.
Piece?
What's going on, guys? What's going on, guys? And I mean, if you have Cam Thomas and you could leverage him for a piece that you feel is going to be your core foundational star piece going forward for the next 5 years, you pull the trigger. Do I think Zion is worth that risk? I can't say I do
was
at
just
this
using
point.
Zion. You can
Even like LaMelo. LaMelo's another guy. Like he just plays losing brand style of basketball. And he has health issues as well, and just immaturity issues as well. Like there's nothing about either one of those guys that scream invest. You can't like that. That's it. It's there's a reason
At
why
least we're not a
Charlotte and
hole.
New Orleans are struggling year after year, and a part of it is the fact that these guys aren't on the floor, and a part of it is, well, not really in Zion's case. Zion is just strictly just he's not available as often as he needs to be, and that it's health conditioning. But as far as LaMelo, I don't want this guy anywhere near Brooklyn. He's terrible, terrible, terrible.
I don't think LaMelo Ball is terrible, but look, I appreciate you coming on. Again, walking into the Lions den and challenging the Lion to a fight. I appreciate that, Mark. I do. All right,
Slaying the
so
lion, slaying the lion, slaying the lion.
Whoa.
you're gonna try. I don't know how that's gonna go for you, but I do appreciate the effort. All right, so we gotta do this Cam Johnson thing one more time. You said Cam Johnson is a fourth option. I
Absolutely.
agree.
Yeah.
He's a fourth
Yeah.
option. Who are options 1, 2, and 3?
No, now, I mean, obviously, it doesn't make sense for him right now. Like, obviously, we're not a contender, so you can't expect Cam Johnson to be filling that fourth option when we don't have options 1, 2, and 3, like you're saying.
Mark, that's my entire point. Was look, if we had Giannis, if we had Zion, if we had a guy like that who you wanted to surround by shooters, surround with shooters, maybe it would make some sense. It's still being overpaid, but at least it would make sense.
No, but Gary, you're looking at it as, Cam Johnson in March of 2025. Look
When
at
was he
it.
signed? When was he signed?
He was signed in July 2023.
Who was
And if you
options 1, 2, and 3 when they signed him? You
so
said he was a
li,
fourth option, and I
no, but
agree with you. Who was
no,
option?
listen to I guess the thought process at the time. Remember, they were
I'm gonna
banking
listen.
on
I'm gonna listen. But I
but they
want
were
to know who.
banking they were
Mark, let me
banking on
answer my question first. I'll listen. I'll listen to the whole
it.
spiel. I promise you I will. Who was options 1, 2, and 3 when they signed Cam Johnson that contract in 2023?
So the concept of it was going to be, in my opinion, Mikal Bridges, Cam
Huh?
Thomas,
Yeah.
Cam Thomas, and Ben Simmons being the point guard
Oh my
facilitating the
God.
offense. Now
Okay.
it didn't, but I hear what you guys are saying. Like, don't get me wrong. Like Ben Simmons, he bombed it over here. It was one of the worst stints in NBA contracts history. Like if it like for a 3-4 year period, like you can't. There's no way around that. And we're still paying him.
Time job.
You know what I mean? And it's not really, you can't really say con job, John, because
Yes,
a
I
lot of
can.
it,
He's the
it's
Bernie Madoff of basketball, Mark. What are you talking about?
no, listen to what I'm saying. It's health. Nobody gets spinal surgery just because they don't want to play ball. Like
Why
that's
was he the
not.
primary option then? Why did Sean Marks win the primary
No,
option if
no.
he was compromised? You
Listen
just
to
said
what
he
I'm.
was supposed to be one of the top three on the team.
No, but listen to what I'm saying. As far as having the ball in his hand, being the playmaker, the table setter, right? That was the role that was envisioned for Ben, and we saw Ben thrive in that role in Philly, right?
For 5 games he played before he got hurt, Mark. The experiment was off
Mark,
before it
No,
started.
no, no. But wait,
Mark, let me
what are you
let me
saying?
push back a little bit. Let me push back.
Talk to me.
There's a couple of things I see problematic with your theory on what Mark's envisioned.
Mhm.
You thought Mikal Bridges was going to be a superstar scorer, like an all-star scorer. Mikal Bridges, like that's
No,
one. Let me
yeah,
let me
but
think.
from the time in Brooklyn
Let
when
me give you.
that second half of the 23 season, Gary,
But
you can't tell me you weren't excited.
this is my problem. When someone is mid for 4 years and then they have a great 2 months, what do you think they are? Do you think they're the
No,
player they
no,
were
no.
for 4 years,
Okay,
or do you
so
think they're
so
the player they
Gary,
were for 2 months?
you've been watching ball a long time too, so I could
Since
have this
before you were
conversation with
alive, Mark. Since before you were, how old are
since
you, Mark?
before I was alive. Absolutely, absolutely.
How
So
old are you,
I'm
Mark?
good.
30?
so you're able to see it a little. Opportunity is a lot of what these guys need. The right, get them in the right system, get them the right coach, the right guys around them, and give them the opportunity, and they pop. Jermaine O'Neal. What was your take?
All right, hang on. We all knew Jermaine O'Neal was a stud. He was just buried in that rotation. Jermaine O'Neal looked like the best post defender and maybe the best power forward in that loaded era of power forwards. Like, I understand what you're saying. Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson that year, everyone on Phoenix was hurt except for them. And they became, because of injury, the first two options. And Phoenix was terrible because of it. Terrible. So it's like, okay,
Absolutely,
so this
absolutely.
is failing in Phoenix. Let's bring it over here and have it fail here. Like
No, I hear what
when
you're.
they made that trade, I was speechless. I remember going to bed that night. I'm like, this is the worst trade in the history of
But
basketball. You trade
Gary and John,
and Clay
let me ask you guys a serious question, right? Mikal Bridges, after he had that first stint in Brooklyn, the first season that he was here, what was your takeaway going into the offseason regarding Mikal Bridges? Were you not high
Okay,
on his potential? At the time is what I'm saying. Not
yeah.
now. At the time.
Let me let me respond. Okay, he's a better mid range and shooter, mid range scorer, and shot creator than I thought. he's not simply a 3-and-D wing. He has more to him than that.
Yes.
That was my
That was your
thought.
take in the summer of 23 on Bridges.
Yeah.
John, what was your take on Bridges after his first couple of months in Brooklyn? What was your take?
I was falsely misled thinking that he actually wanted to be on this team. So whatever I defended him, that's on
As a
him. Why
player, I
I
gave
don't
him
defend him
a chance.
at all.
He was after that first 2 months, after that, and then that made that trade. I thought there was a chance he could be a very good, a good
Good
scorer in the
second
NBA.
option or something to that effect, right?
A second option,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah,
And I don't think he's not that. But at the
No.
time, we it's fair to assess that we thought, okay, Bridges could be a second option, right? That's
I
where we
had
thought.
third option. I had Drew Holiday potentially, but that was before I found out he didn't want to be on this team. So whatever I said defending the guy,
Okay.
I was all
But
falsely misled because he didn't even want to be here. So what he was
But
doing,
just-
Mark, was bumping up stats because he wanted to get the hell out of here. So we really can't even defend that now.
No,
Because,
no.
no. Because it doesn't count now. He didn't want to be here.
But listen to I'm talking to summer 23. Like, just stick with me with what I'm saying. Bridges, up until that point, we could all say we thought he was going to be a second option. He needs a star guy to lead him, right? Like that like he's second option. That's where we thought at the time, right?
The only guy I thought that could come in was Donovan Mitchell. When that went to hell, we had to get rid of him.
But listen, but in 23, in summer of 23, you just stick with me. I'm not trying to manipulate you in any way. I'm just saying just to the facts of where we were at the time, right? So now you thought you had your second option guy, Cam Thomas at the time, those scoring outbursts. You thought that he could develop into a high level scoring guy, right? Whether it be
no, stop.
no. But listen, I'm not saying like as a starter. Even I'm just saying as a sixth man, you thought he could be that bucket getter, even come off the bench and just get you 18 points a night and just cook the second units. At the very least, you thought that of him, right? And he's developing to more than that at this point. But at the time that's all I'm saying. At the time, just stick with me. At the time, you thought that of him, right?
I always liked Cam. For the moment they got him, I thought he could be a legitimate scorer. Marks doesn't think that. Marks doesn't like him, but I thought that. Yeah, I'm with you. But you're countering your own argument because Marks hates him. But go ahead.
So now Cam Johnson, we are all in agreement. He's a fourth option kind of guy. Yeah. He's not a guy that's gonna win you games, but he's not a guy that's gonna cost you games. And
why is he called a leader if he's a fourth option? I don't understand leaders
by
a fourth
default,
option
Lon,
$20 million.
you're reading too much into the leadership title. Like
no.
on a tanking team, that's like saying who's the leader in Charlotte? LaMelo's the leader in Charlotte. Like, you know what I mean? Like you're losing.
He's their best asset on that team right now. So
that's essentially what it is.
But what did Johnson do to get that title when he got gifted $20 million because his buddy Bridges didn't actually want to be here? He wrote those coattails.
It has nothing to do with if you're thinking it's like gifted is Giannis's brother having a standard contract in the NBA. Gifted is Bronny James having a standard contract in the
Johnson's
NBA.
averaging 13 points though, Mark. How many guys
don't give me numbers.
Get that money then? Why didn't Zaire get $20 million then? He was picked then.
You can't go based on numbers, Don. On ability and what you're saying, by your own admission, you're saying he's a fourth option guy. That's what a fourth option starting wing who plays his role gets in the NBA. That's all I've been saying. Like, and at the time it made sense, and we weren't gonna let him walk out the door for nothing when we didn't have our pick. That's all I'm saying, guys.
I was more than happy to let him walk out the door for nothing. If it's $22 million or nothing, give me nothing all day. And I screamed up and down when they said no, nothing is better than giving him $22 million and crippling your franchise. If you give him that contract, you're never going to be good ever because you've crippled yourself with that contract.
Yeah, our GM gives out bad money, Mark. Haven't you seen it lately?
You already got a bad contract in Ben Simmons, right? That's already on the books. There's nothing you can do
but we didn't give Ben Simmons the deal. We inherited it. But you guys know
you traded for that contract,
and that was a terrible move. I stand on that. I know that.
One bad contract on the books.
But listen to what
another bad contract on the books, and so right now you have Ben Simmons who doesn't play, and Cam Johnson who's a fourth option, making a combined $62 million, or roughly more than one third of your entire payroll. You can't be good that way. Like, you have to draft Joker and Brunson in the second round and give them minimum contracts to be able to compete when you have $62 million going to one guy who doesn't play.
But
and
we've
another guy
been
who's a
operating at a handicap given the fact that we had the Ben Simmons contract on our books. It's not that we're operating at a handicap given the fact that we have Cam Johnson on our books. That's the main thing. You like it all circles back to Ben Simmons, and the Ben Simmons experiment was a failure. It was an epic failure. Absolutely. There's
Was there
no
ever a point in that trade where Ben Simmons played, or after that trade where you said, okay, Ben Simmons may work out? Was there ever even a moment, a glimpse where you say Ben Simmons might work out? That like this trade, the Harden trade, might be not even a win for us, just a push for us. Like we're no worse after this trade. Was there ever a moment?
I think the hope was, but you remember how many summers?
Was there actually ever a moment after that trade where you said this trade doesn't make us worse?
Was there no? The right question is: was there ever hope that Ben Simmons was going to return to All-Star form?
No. Was there ever a moment after that trade, even for one day,
where you thought Ben Simmons was going to be All-Star Ben Simmons again? Is what you're saying?
Said that this trade isn't a loss for us. My point is,
no, it was a loss. It was a loss from the time we made it. Absolutely.
So why would you make it? Like that to me, that's a fireball. But you made a trade that no
but guys,
ever looked decent.
what you want? So like, look, this is where it's just the reality of the business. It goes. An all-star player requests a trade in season that's a pending free agent. There's no scenarios where the guy isn't dealt. That's what I'm saying.
We're not trading James Harden. We have Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving. We're ready to win a title. We're not buying your BS injury shtick. You stay, or else that's it. Listen, that's all Mark said.
Look at how much we paid for James Harden the year before. You don't
let
James Harden walk out the door.
Title. What are you talking about, Mark?
I didn't like that trade when they made it, but Mark, let's do a little role playing, okay? I beat Sean Marks. You beat James Harden. You come in my office and ask me for a trade. Go ahead.
Trade me.
No.
I'm out. I'm leaving in July.
Thank God. We get your salary off the books.
No,
thank God.
Oh man,
I'm gonna go sign something good.
It doesn't play like that in the real world, Gary. No way, bro.
I just did it. You came in here.
But that doesn't. Okay,
I said
you're
no,
saying
we're win championship.
But you're saying you just did it. When has that ever occurred in the NBA? Like you're asking.
Give me another example of something comparable, like
what?
Where your options are. Make a horrible trade that cripples your franchise forever, or let a player walk.
But listen to what I'm saying.
Once you traded for Ben Simmons, Mark, once you traded for Ben Simmons, you cooked your own egg. It was over. It was done.
We were never running back. We never ran back the same team that was supposed to win a title in 21. We never ran that team back. That's really what it all came down to. So that's where I'm saying, it was doomed from the start because the team was never the same. After the trade, we never got to see the 21 team that was supposed to win the championship. We never got to see that team make a second run. But what I'm saying is, when Harden requested a trade and you gave up everything that you gave up for him a year ago, and he requests a trade, and the alternative is he's walking out the door.
Then I have cap space. Then I can go sign.
No, it sounds good. It sounds good. But at the time,
you think that happens, easy or difficult to find other stars who wanted to play with KD and Kyrie at that time? Do you think that would have been a hard thing or a difficult thing to do?
We were still but listen to what you're saying. We were still going to be it's not like we were going to have 50 million in cap space now. We still had other contracts on the book. So we were going to be under the luxury tax. Yeah, but we didn't have enough room to bring in another James Harden via free agency, if that's what you're trying to allude to, or by trade.
You had caps. You didn't need James Harden, and I've said this, it never made sense on this team, ever. It was overkill. It made no sense. I was against that trade on the day that they made it. I said it makes him worse now, and it definitely makes him worse later. So I was never on board with that trade. I would have taken KD as my 1, Kyrie as my 2, then guys like Jared Allen, Spencer Dinwiddie, Karis LeVert, etc., and filled out my roster like that and had depth instead of 3 guys who all fill the exact same space. It made no sense. So I would rather have a bunch of good players than James Harden.
if they win a championship, you're never saying that. A championship makes the whole thing worth it. Like, doesn't matter.
That's why I said keep Harden, Mark. But
No,
you're saying we had
but
no
what I'm saying is,
choice.
if Harden requests a trade, he's out the door. Like, you can't risk that.
Let me ask you a question. So if they
It
want
doesn't
to trade,
happen in the NBA. Like, you can't tell me an instance where that happened. Like,
Kobe
a guy
Bryant,
requests a
when he
trade.
wanted out, he won
yeah,
a
I
title with
can.
Shaq.
But
Wait, who is that?
You also can't give me a comparable example. Kobe Bryant and Paul Pierce asked for trades. They didn't get traded.
And they won
No, but they
titles.
weren't pending free agents. That's
Yeah,
what I'm saying.
exactly. That's
You
what
can't
Trump's
give me
organization. They
you're
don't
giving me this
stand their
weird
ground.
scenario. Mark, give me an example of a guy that grew up in a city south of the Mason-Dixon line, who's at least 6'9", who has his favorite color is green. I
Listen,
don't have any other examples of this.
listen, a star requesting a trade. That's got free agency coming up. When does it happen? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like,
I can't give you an example, but that doesn't mean you make a trade.
you know how
People get
high the
franchise.
temperature is on the ownership and management when a guy requests trade like that. Like, it's a slippery. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's a game of relations. You got to deal with the agents. You got to deal with the future all stars. You think somebody's gonna want, like, just to play the reality of it. You think the next all stars looking at a team and say, oh wow, okay, they held James Harden captive, they held Kevin Durant captive, and they were unhappy, and the whole thing, it just became a toxic environment. You think people are signing up to join that circus? Like,
So you're telling me
that's
what giving in to their demands
People would have
was
come
what's
up
going
at
to
the
save our
bench
future?
to get on that bench
no,
team.
he had no choice is what I'm saying. He
No,
had
no.
no
First of all, they
choice.
had choices. Wait,
Let me give you.
What's the
John,
choices?
I'll
What's
let you cook. Let me answer the question, John. I'll let you cook, but let me answer this question. So
yeah.
here's the deal. Okay, here's the trade. I tell James Harden, I'm not trading you. Okay, get out of my office. KD comes back in a week or 2 weeks. We're gonna win a championship. Get out of my office. I then call. Hang on. Then I call Daryl Morley. I say, here's the deal. Here's the trade. I'm going to be Marks. You be Daryl Morley. Here's the deal: Ben Simmons and Tyrese Halliburton for James Harden, or I hang up the phone.
I hear what you're saying. He should have done the trade in so many aspects regarding the waiving of the physical, regarding not negotiating for more picks, regarding not negotiating for better young guys like Tyrese Maxey. It was a failure all across the board. We all know that. But what I'm saying is, at the time, there was no option. His back was against the, like, I'm not advocating for Mark. I'm just explaining the reality of the business side of what transpired. Like, it doesn't happen. If a guy requests a trade, if, for instance, if Trae Young requests a trade next year in December, Trae Young is getting traded.
Thank God.
There's that.
Hopefully, get him the hell out of it. They don't even want him
Jimmy
there
Butler.
anymore.
Look, Jimmy Butler requested a trade in season. It got real nasty, right? But he ultimately got what he wanted, both in the trade and in the contract extension. It's just the reality of it. It's player empowerment. It's a part of player empowerment. That's the new era of the way the NBA business is done.
But all it takes is a set of balls. Let's say, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to. You signed a contract. You're under that contract. I don't really want you here long term anyway. So if I lose you, I lose you. Like, at least I have cap space. It's not that big a deal.
But
It's a law.
do you know how bad
we're going to try to win. We're going to try to win a
uproar
championship.
would have been ridiculous if
Once you made that trade, once you traded Harden, you were no longer looking to win a championship.
you were no longer the 21 team anymore. That was the championship.
You were no longer looking to win a championship. You were looking to compete with the better teams. You were no longer really looking to win a championship.
Correct.
You know,
So don't make the trade.
It was just so many different factors into the timing of everything. Like,
Mark,
it's just that's the reality of, like, it was everything. The vaccine.
Mark, you know what's disgusting, Mark? Kevin Durant was supposed to be the whole thing that brings us all together, right?
I know, and that's where.
Wait, hear me out. The 2 times he went down with injury, James asked out. The second time he went down with injury, Kyrie asked out. If I'm the boss, the owner, and Kevin Durant's my main reason for wanting to win a title, I'm telling these guys, listen, the guy's coming back. I'm not giving you what the hell you want. If you want to walk, let's win a championship first. Instead, this guy pulls into what they want. I'm trying to protect my main asset. Kyrie Durant, you're the supporting
I hear what you're saying, John. And you're not wrong in that regard. You're right in that regard. But what happens there is,
businessman, Mark. Just call it out.
I hear what you're saying, but listen. At the end of the day, too, it also falls on Kevin at the time. If
He was
you're
injured. How's it
no,
cool
listen,
that
listen,
that's
just
injured?
listen to what I'm saying. When you're that superstar player and you have aura and you're that guy, you're two-time Finals MVP and you're him, you got to be able to rein your guys in and be able to have control and leadership, and that's something that Kevin never had.
He's
And
not the
that's
boss of the owner, though, Mark. And I understand.
he's the
Listen, I
man.
called Kevin Durant out for the same thing.
John, do
I
you
called him out
think
for the same thing. But the
John,
owner
do
and the
you
boss is
think
supposed to bring all these guys together. Not
do
Kevin Durant's
you
supposed to be the end all be
who do you
all
think
on
is the
that end.
boss? Who do you think is the boss with the Lakers organization? Rob Pelinka or LeBron James? Who do you think is the
It's
boss?
actually Luka Doncic now with Rob Pelinka. LeBron kind of they kind of made that decision, Mark. So
Who do you think is the boss in Denver? The GM or Jokic?
I think Nikola just goes out there to compete. I don't think he's like
I
a
mean, yeah,
power
maybe
hungry
he's a
guy
bad
like that.
example in regards to superstar, but it's just when like Steph Curry. Who do you think is running things with the war? Who do you think is the boss? Is it Steph Curry or Mike Dunleavy Jr. the GM now? It's
But it's now
Steph Curry.
Mike.
Like if you're him, you're fucking him, bro. That's how it's supposed to be. There's no in between. No, I'm no. You're the leader. You're the star player. You're the MVP
But
guy.
hang on, but you're negating your own point because Kevin Durant didn't want to trade James Harden.
Right.
No, but listen, because he knew what it was gonna be. He knew what it was, but he couldn't rein his guys back in. Like if you're Kevin Durant, you got to be able to. Yo, James, what the fuck is going on, bro? Like, come on,
Kevin
let me
Durant knew
rehab my fucking
Kevin
whatever he
Durant
sprained.
knew once they traded Harden, they weren't going to win a championship. When they were
I
playing
agree.
Boston, he only texted Michael Beasley, "We're finna lose." Right? He knew it was over. It was over. It was over. Like, and they were the favorite to win the championship that year when the playoffs. So it was like, this team is garbage. They're not beating Boston. I didn't think they get swept. There was no way they were beating Boston.
I agree. It was doomed from the start. That was probably one of our worst seasons because where we came off of to what we thought we were going to accomplish to never even getting a chance to run that back. And it was
And
across the
Mark,
board.
And Mark, this goes to our last topic that there's no Game What's Close. So we're going to show a clip of Sean Marks, who beginning of the season talked about what this direction was supposed to be this season. And so far, direction has the base really divided on all levels. And this goes to my point, Mark. Sean and Joe are the ones who went after the stars because they thought they were ready to go to that next level. But instead of thinking you were, you should have known you were because clearly they didn't know what the hell they were getting into, getting 3 stars in the team where they just sit there and watch the whole thing burn to hell. And then you got Bridges and Johnson, who you thought they wanted to be there and salvage your dream that got blown to smithereens. They didn't want to be there. Well, Bridges didn't want to be there. Now you're stuck in trying to do this the right way. But even this year, who's in charge this year?
But
Sean,
look,
Joe,
John,
or Jordy?
look at
It
it.
looks like it was Jordy in charge this year.
Look at it objectively, like in regards to the season, right? I mean, we can't control Philly and New Orleans being plagued by injuries up and down the roster like
What
that.
about
That
us,
like
though? I'm not talking about the other teams and what happened to
no,
them. I'm talking about what we can control.
that's what leaves us to where we are in the standings. Nobody could have predicted Philly being where they are, and nobody could have predicted New Orleans being where they are. If Dejounte Murray doesn't pop his Achilles and Zion plays 20 more games and Trey Murphy doesn't fuck his shoulder up, New Orleans is at least 10 games better than what their record is now. If Joel Embiid's knee is helped just one, like even McCain or Paul George or even who's the other guy? And Maxey missed a bunch of time too this year. Like if any of them are remotely, they're better than us. They're clearing us. Wait, so we can only control what we can control.
They were
And
more. Some of them were more strategic. Let's look at the Raptors. They were very strategic. They knew they weren't going to win from the
but
jump,
John,
but
you're
they
saying
had
they
their
were very
franchise
strategic,
guy.
but
They
if
had
they
their
were very
they
strategic,
had their franchise guy. They made the move for Ingram to be the third guy. Now they're in line to get a second prospect to potentially line up with Scotty. So they did things way strategically because they knew where they were at in this food chain. We're supposed to know where we're at this year. And it felt like we didn't know where
if
we're
you're
at
commending the
exactly.
tank job that they did and where they are in the lottery, and we're below them, what are we talking about? That's all I'm saying.
Because they had to win some games here and there. But even listen, let's be honest. The Raptors could have made a run for the play-in, but they don't want the play-in. So that's why they're
Of
losing on
course,
the easy
now
schedule games. That's
where they
strategic,
found
though,
themselves
Mark,
at.
on the Raptors' part. So I'm not giving you smoke here. I'm actually giving you logistics. Us as an organization, our problem this year was we relied on the vets too damn much. The Johnsons, the Claxons, the Dennis Schroers, the Dorian Finney-Smiths, and now D'Lo, who shouldn't even be here right now because Killian Hayes should have
But
his spot.
John, I
He's been
told you
playing
on Twitter,
minutes. We
didn't
were
I tell you on
8-9 with him.
if when you traded for D'Lo. That was in December, late December, right? I don't know. I don't remember if Thomas was like. I mean, I know he was out with the hamstring, but it wasn't where it is now. You're still prioritizing the development of what you have. Like you can't run the team out with no point guard. Like that's just
Killian
you.
Hayes, you could play him. He's young. He's
But
trying to
John,
gain a
listen to
job
what
back
you're
in the
saying.
NBA.
Listen to what you're saying. Like D'Angelo Russell, he's not fucking prime Steph Curry, Damian. Like,
We're trying
where
to
is he?
protect our
I'm
lottery
not
pick,
But
gonna
Mark.
where
have
is
I'm not
he?
gonna have
And
any D'Angelo Russell blasphemy on this show. All
but
right.
where is he in terms of point guards in the NBA? Like, do you put him in the top 10, top 20, top
Who,
30? Like,
D'Lo? I don't know.
he's low. You know what I
My
mean? Like,
point is, this is about player development. Killian Hayes fits what we're trying to build right now. D'Lo doesn't, and this
listen,
organization's reliance on the
no,
vets too
listen.
much this year potentially almost hurt
But
us. We were
John,
half a game out of a playing spot, Mark. That wasn't supposed to be an idea.
If Killian Hayes is who you're saying, oh, he could play the point guard and he could help develop the young guys, and he could be a starter in this league or a sixth man and play
I didn't say
valuable,
start or anything like that. He fits
or he could
protecting a
play a
lottery pick.
valuable,
And
he could play a valuable role in the organization as a point guard. There's 29 other teams who say no, he can't. That's what I'm saying.
Mark,
Like there's
he protects
29
our
other
lottery
teams.
pick.
What was
Mark,
that?
this is what I told you yesterday. He protects the lottery pick, and you said yesterday that the development of Claxton and Whitehead
So
is more important than where
so
our lottery
how
pick
does
goes. And how
D'Lo?
those two develop? Gary, how
How
did
is
Claxton and Whitehead develop this year? To Mark's point, did they
okay?
develop the way they were supposed to?
He
Well, let
didn't.
me let me let me answer. Let me answer. And I want to hear you. Claxton has regressed. Claxton's having the worst season of his
Tremendously.
career as a pro, and Whitehead
Mhm.
hasn't gotten a chance to play. I don't understand why. But go ahead.
But what I'm saying is, D'Lo is not this needle mover. Like, where is he
Yeah,
winning?
no, Mark, you're wrong. Like we can disagree on D'Lo. He can create offense for others, and the evidence is clear. When he plays, the Nets average about 5 points more per game than when he doesn't. They're
But you
also
can say
plus
that
minus
about
about.
any playmaking point guard. You're better with a playmaking point guard on the
The
floor.
Nets
Like
are clearly
that
better.
does it's
I
not.
was wrong. When they traded for him, I said D'Lo's going to win you one game. He's going to drop 40 on some random night in Charlotte, and the Nets are going to win a game. Other than that, he's not going to do anything to help you win. I was wrong. He does. He wins you games because he can create offense for others. Like I'm not saying that you should try to lose every game, but I love D'Lo. I have a D'Lo jersey. D'Lo is one of my 5 favorite Nets of all time. Why is he
I hear
playing?
you.
Like, why is he playing? There's no
No, because
reason.
his value is simply that he's an expiring contract. It has nothing beyond that. Like that's a
Okay,
clear.
but why is he playing though? Why was he playing?
You need 8 point. Did you? We can't play Ben Simmons. Like you couldn't rely on
You can play Reese Beekman. You could play the guys that were on your
Reese
roster who you
Beekman.
want.
If you're relying on Reese Beekman to help further the
I'm
development
not
of guys
trying to.
like
It's about
Clowney,
protecting the lottery pick, Mark. This is all with the lottery
It's
pick. It's
not
not
even
about the
about
vets
it's not
bumping up
even
stats right
necessarily
now.
about that for
but
me. It's about seeing what you have. If I want to see if these guys can play in the NBA, the only way I can do that is to let them play in the NBA.
Right.
Only way.
he's an expiring contract. That's all I'm saying. Like he's not winning you games. Like
I
where
don't
is he?
agree.
Like
I disagree. Like he's not going to carry you to the playoffs by
you're
himself.
talking about that
We
one stretch where they beat Philly twice, who was spiraling at the time,
They
where they
beat
beat
Houston twice, who's one of the
yeah
best teams in basketball.
Houston. They blew that game at the end,
The
and that was
second game against Houston, how'd they win the game?
that was a D'Lo buzzer beater at the end. But also provide the context that Houston played 3 games in 4 nights, and they were in the middle
You're
of
playing the
a rough.
goddamn Nets, bro. You're one of the best teams
I
in basketball.
hear
You're
what you're
playing the
saying,
Nets.
but Gary, you've been watching ball a long time. It's a league full of professional athletes. Even the worst teams in the mighty 72 win Chicago Bulls. Did they not lose?
I
Again,
want to play this clip.
who
I
was
want to
it that
play
they
this.
lost to that day?
Let me play the clip. John wants me to play the clip. I want to get into the clip. Where?
All right.
Here it is. You want me just to start it at 8? You want me to start it here, John, from the beginning?
Yeah, just the first 2 minutes, really.
All right.
Gets asked a question.
You guys are in a little bit of a different place, both expectation wise and where you are in your development as a team than you were even at this time last year or when Jordy was even hired. How do you, I guess, navigate the different expectations and different place where you are in your development from even 3 months ago.
Well, I think you mentioned us. It starts with us having honest, transparent conversations, Ryan, because things have certainly changed over the course of the summer, and things will continue to evolve. So as long as we're on the same page and using the same language, and it's being spread down through the organization and the players, I think that's paramount, and that's got to be clear of where we're going, the direction we're going in.
That's pretty much it.
E-file is now open.
I actually ended on the right track
and
there.
file your taxes 100% free.
But Mark, do you see what we're trying to say? Whatever was communicated this season seems like it's very foreign because Jordy had his ideas in mind. Mark's, I guess, had some ideas in mind, but it seems like Jordy was running the ship this year, and Mark's and Joe weren't really having any say whatsoever in how we're actually going to protect the lottery pick and actually develop the prospects, whoever from the G League on this team. I feel like we relied on the vets too much. That's our point. Whatever direction he was talking about, there's no uniformity. D'Lo came on this team because he wants another contract. Johnson came on this team because he still wants his money, and he probably wants to be on a contender. So how is everybody lined up in a unified goal this year? Because the results show it wasn't unified.
D'Lo is here because he's an expiring contract. If he had 2 years on his
why
deal,
is he playing though, John? But my point is, why wasn't he bought out? And I love him.
who are you playing? Who are you going to play
John,
then?
what was the first thing I did when they traded for D'Lo? What was the first thing I did?
Said
we got the D'Lo jersey, right? Broke out the D'Lo jersey.
But
yeah, but you see that message though? How is everybody unified in the message? It doesn't feel like that to me. It feels like everybody had their own agenda and it was let's just see what happens. You can't have that when you have nothing really to work with. You know what you do have? You have your lottery pick. Build that up. Build up some of these guys from the G League up. Not play vets 35 minutes a night, Mark. That's what we're trying to talk about. What's wrong this year.
In regards to the lottery. And that's one aspect of it. It's very unpredictable. Like you could point to it year after year after year after year. And if there's a few outliers where you tanked, you hit the number one pick and you grab the right guy, hey, a lot of that was prior to when they changed the odd system. But
no, I agree. You get 6 teams every year that tank. Only one of them hits the lottery, right? So yeah, no, I agree.
That's what I'm saying. Like people are saying, like, oh, if Brooklyn wins the lottery, oh well, I'm still right. Well, no, because you know what, Charlotte or Utah could be picking, 6th and 7th, and you could say, well, tanking doesn't work. You could fuck your whole season up.
NBA, Mark's right. The NBA really doesn't reward losing like you think it does. It really doesn't. It's not like in football where if you have the worst record, you get the first pick. You can have the worst record and get the 7th pick, the 6th pick. You can get the second worst. It's more likely than not that whoever picks one will not have one of the 3 worst records in the league, right? Because each team has a 14% chance. 1, 2, and 3 have a 14% chance of winning. If you add that all up, that's a 42% chance. That means it's a 58% chance that whoever has that first pick was outside of the bottom 3 teams. NBA does not reward losing like you guys think it does. If you have the worst record in the NBA, you have a 14% chance of winning getting that first pick. If you have the 7th worst record in the NBA, you have a 7% chance. It's not that big a difference, right? It's not that major. You guys think the NBA does not reward losing like you guys think it does.
No, you made some valid points there, Gary, but this just comes back to what is our real direction as a team, Mark? That's what I'm trying to figure out here. What are we doing? Because you still have D'Lo on this team, you still have Johnson, Claxton might not go anywhere. Like this summer, this team has to be active and figure out who's going to be here and who is not going to be here. They cannot do a slow, quiet summer just drafting people. We have to put ourselves in a position of where we're going as a team because it still feels like we don't know where we're going. We got lucky being 5th record somehow, but still, there's still a lot to be figured out. And I don't know if this organization has an understanding of that based on what's gone down the last few years and what we've talked about the last 20, 30 minutes about this team's constant failures on the communication style. When is that going to change?
John and Gary, could you guys have foreseen Dennis Schroeder playing like an all-star to start the year? Who had that on their bingo card? Nobody. And another part of it, Ben Simmons, who really was going into the season saying we could rely on Ben Simmons to be a starter and playing 65% of the games of the season. You couldn't rely on him. You know what I mean? Like that's what I'm saying. Like the direction, and then once we started winning, as soon as the first chance he got to move off of Dennis, he did. And then he moved DFS as well. Like, you just got to roll with it. Like where we sit now, like it the, I forget who it was that put it on Twitter today or yesterday, was the two stretches where we were 4-1 and 6-1 are the outliers of what we've been throughout the season. That's like that Phoenix game where Tyrese Martin just came out of nowhere and lit up the Suns. Like that, like we nobody anticipated that shit happening, or didn't Dennis have a crazy game against the Golden State too on that road trip? Like it's so many different like unpredictability, and then the teams that are ahead of us or that we're tied with in Philly, nobody had New Orleans and Philly being as bad as they are, like getting plagued by injuries. Joel Embiid's knee, Paul George having, well, I mean, some of that part could be, you could have seen that, coming a little bit, I guess you could say. But Jared McCain tearing his knee after averaging 20, like there's just so many things that where we are now, sitting tied for fifth, like if Philly and New Orleans have a little bit better health, they're behind us, and we're sitting at fourth. And like, what do we? What do we?
Mark,
What's?
no one's missed more games than our starters. Nobody. That's not my opinion. That's fact. We've had more injuries than
No,
anyone.
no, 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 nah,
Yeah.
Gary, you're wrong.
You want to bet?
Definitely not. In terms of starters,
Who's played more games this year? Zion Williamson or Cam Thomas?
all right, but you're looking at it one by one.
No. If you pull up a stat, most games missed by starters. Then that's number one.
That's no way. There's no way. I can't. I
Let me see
mean,
if I can find a stat.
I
You owe
don't. I
Gary
mean,
a
maybe
pizza if
because you
he's right.
maybe
You owe
because you
Gary a
put Ben
pizza if he's
Simmons as a
right.
starter, you skewed the scales a little bit. But that you gotta take into account. I mean, Dejounte Murray popping as a killer. Like there's no way. New Orleans definitely got like you can't convince me otherwise. New Orleans is definitely the worst in regards to the injury luck.
No, I'll give it to you, Mark. Where? Oh, he went out.
No, I'm still here, man. I'm sorry. I'm
All right,
sorry.
listen. I'll give it to you. We're in a better position than we thought we could be. Thank God we got out of the play-in part of that whole crazy fiasco. But there's still a lot left to be resolved with this team. We still have to figure out what does this team want to do with the pieces that are still on this team in this summer if they want to trade them. Like
I
I hope
think a
this
lot of
organization
that
actually
has to
starts
do on the lottery,
positioning
John.
ourselves.
A lot of teams' future gets determined by the lottery outcome. Good, bad, or indifferent. That's just how everything is gonna go.
Right, but we need a structure and sustainability, Mark. That's what this
I
organization
hear
hasn't
you. I
figured
hear
out the
you.
last
And
8 years.
the
Until
other
we
day
get
when you guys were
there,
talking on
it's
the
gonna be the
other day
same
when you
stuff
guys were
happening.
talking, what I was saying in regards to the Celtics rebuild, the Celtics back in '05, like they failed, and then they started like they weren't winning the lottery. They were tanking, but they weren't winning the lottery, and they built the team around what they had. Like, all right, we didn't win the lottery, but you know what? We picked up a valuable piece in Rondo. We didn't win the lottery, but we got Tony Allen. We didn't win the lottery, but we got Kendrick Perkins. We didn't win the lottery. We got the fifth pick. Guess what? We flipped it for Ray Allen, and we traded the rest of our young core and future pick for Kevin Garnett. Like, you know what I mean? There's so many different avenues where a rebuild could go, and it's just it takes time, bro. A rebuild isn't gonna happen in a year's time. It takes a while for everything to materialize and everything to come together, and sometimes it the rebuild hits the rocks and shit gets. Look at the baby Bulls of the 2000s. Like you did everything you could. To some degree they nailed the picks. Elton Brand, Jay Williams. They traded Elton Brand a year later, and Jay Williams ripped
No,
his
yeah,
knee up on a motorcycle. Like, you
yeah.
know what I mean? Like anything can happen. Like there's so many different ways of a rebuild either working or not working, and why it does and why it doesn't. Like you
No,
just
I agree with you, Mark. Right? Like I agree. I think tanking is stupid. It doesn't work. But so like two questions that the naysayers, the pro tankers are going to say two things. First, everything else we've ever done, signing superstars, getting veterans, has never worked with the Nets. It's never
Mhm.
worked. That's A. And B is like, what option do we have other than rebuilding? Like, look at the roster, bro. Look at it.
Exactly.
What other options do we have?
Exactly, and Marx looked at it from that perspective. What's the alternative? I got to invest the Suns pick into a all star who's not that elite. Like you're not landing a top guy. What are you gonna get? You're gonna get maybe Trae Young isn't gonna will you to the championship. So like, at what point are you just chasing your tail? At that point, you just hit reset. He did the right thing. He detonated. Got rid of Bridges. Sold super high on him. Didn't cleared the books, and now we have the flexibility this offseason. Like
The
just
only
gotta let.
We
positive
have
thing.
flexibility, but you still have some contracts you got to get rid of. Claxton Johnson, you
Yeah,
can get
I
rid of him.
listen.
We have
I
way
agree with
more
you.
flexibility than we do right
Claxton
now.
is a bad contract, yes. But what I'm
Yeah.
saying is, so how I was in my mind, what I was doing. This is like a couple days ago. I was saying to myself, all right, you could trade Claxton to the Lakers, take back Vincent and Kleber, send those two guys
Kleber.
to Miami, and take Terry Rozier. He's an expiring contract who's
Oh,
playing like shit, and Miami gets Gabe Vincent, who has had success with Miami before. They're both expiring, the Kleber deal and the Vincent deal. And maybe we could get some little draft equity out of Claxton and
So
an
here's my
expiring
point.
deal,
Here's
and
my
flip
point.
it,
And
and hopefully down the line flip it for a piece that but a lot of it all depends on the lottery. Like that's really what I'm saying. Like you got to let it materialize. You don't know what's gonna happen.
here's
That's
my
all I'm
point,
saying.
right? That's what you could do. You could make the situation better, right? Like there's always a best move on the chessboard. There's not always a winning move, but there's a best move. What move
Correct.
can I make that is my best move that gives me the best chance? Marks
Yes.
is going to do the opposite. He's going to
I
not
doubt it.
draft a center. He's going to not trade Claxton because he loves to be right, and he's going to prove everyone wrong when Claxton plays like an all-star. That's
yeah.
A. B,
Claxton
he's
is
gonna
never
hang
gonna
on.
play like an all-star.
Oh, I agree with you, but Marks doesn't. B, he's gonna not draft the center because we already have our center of the future. We have Nick Claxton, so he's gonna compound the problem by not
So.
by not drafting a center. So we're moving forward with Claxton. I can guarantee it.
If he drafts a 7 foot on draft night, it's going to be breaking news all over all the New York content. People, yo, someone
So
drafted a big.
let me ask you this, Mark.
He does that.
Are the Nets going to resign Day'Ron Sharp?
I personally, I think he's shown some growth. I think it depends on where we land in the lottery and what the trade market for. There's a lot of different variables as to whether he comes back next year. Do I think that he could play a role on the team as a backup five? Absolutely. I think I will.
All
I
right.
want to see him get more run with Clowney, like that, a front court of those two together.
I do
That's what
too.
I
But
want to see.
let me lay this out. So you're paying Claxton $25 million. You're paying Day'Ron Sharp $35 million. So you got 10 million. I'm sorry, 10 million. You
But
got
that's not really
35.
his market. I mean, you got to look at other backup bigs, like what have they gotten? Like you know what I mean? And
Hang on,
and
let
he's
me
homegrown,
finish my
so
thought, and I'll let you
yeah,
respond.
yeah.
So let's say you give Sharp 10, because we all kind of agree that 10 is the numbers he's going to get. 25 for Claxton. So that's $35 million tied up at the center position in young players, in players in their prime or entering their prime. And that you now think they're going to draft another center despite paying all that money to young centers.
That doesn't work.
I don't think what if they draft a center, either Sharp is not coming back or Clax is getting moved. There's no scenario where they're bringing Sharp back and drafting a center. Like that's just the
I would
reality of
push
it.
back and say you waited too long in trading Claxton. Like BC is always in the chat. He's a huge Lakers fan. If you would have asked,
no.
if you would have asked him before the season started, would you trade for Claxton? He would have said yes. If you would have asked him at the deadline, would you trade him for Claxton? He said probably. You ask him now, I don't want him anymore. He's playing himself out of all trade value.
Yes, and it's not even just the numbers. It goes beyond, like I said, it's his body language. It's just his effort. It's just his overall demeanor that you're seeing. Like it's not. If you're looking at the film as another GM of another team, you're not looking at Claxton saying, "We need him." That's a piece that we need, especially at that salary. Like it's literally just at this point. You know what I mean? It was a bad deal. Yeah, it turned out to be a bad deal. Absolutely. You're not
That's the problem with
hearing
the front
difference from me.
office. They keep giving bad money out to pieces that they think want to be there when really it turns out they either don't want to be there or just bumping up stats. Like we need pieces that actually make sense and actually want to be
It's
there long
not
term.
bumping up, but
This is
John, you're saying bumping up stats. It has
That's
nothing
what
to do with
Johnson was
stats.
doing most year. Be honest with me. Come on, Mark.
No,
He's forced to be
John,
the
he's just
second, third
playing.
option.
He's
He's
being a
forced to be the
pro.
second, third option. He's bumping up stats because of his experience, not because
No,
he wants to be here, Mark. Come
John,
on.
bumping up stats is like Jordan Poole. That's bumping up stats. That's what bumping up
So
stats
he's
looks
helping my
like.
argument, Gary. He's saying that this guy is just as bad as Jordan Poole.
No, no,
Thank
no,
you,
no,
Mark.
no, no. What I'm
Thank
saying
you.
is that's what Johnson is shooting 13 shots a game. Like
Because he has to, not be. Oh my.
that's not high, John. That's
Okay, then
not
why is
high.
Johnson not playing well then? If he doesn't have to.
He
Talk to
only
me.
takes 13 shots a game. Like, if you want to look at his efficiency and talk about how good his efficiency is, Joe Harris had efficiency ratings like this. Like, who cares, right? Like, it doesn't matter. So is Anthony Morrow. It's like, okay, yeah, he shoots open threes,
Anthony
and that's
Morrow, one of the best
right?
shooters right there.
Yeah, how good was Anthony Morrow?
No, but
Right?
what I'm saying, like he's not bumping up his numbers. He's taking shots within the flow of the offense. Like
Right.
some people,
No,
it's
I
it's
agree
not like
because
he's just commanding the
because
ball.
he can't create his own shot. That's why.
But what I'm
That's
saying
why
is,
he's efficient, right? If he could create his own shot like Cam Thomas, his efficiency would go down. But since he only shoots open threes, it's like Robert Williams III or DeAndre Jordan. They always have the highest efficiencies because all they do is dunk at the rim because they can't do anything else. It's like, yeah, that's a high efficiency shot. That's going to go in.
What Johnson does is valuable in the NBA. That's what's going over your heads.
And why was he traded?
It's not that it's not, John,
Right.
Mark. It's not that it's not valuable. It's that he's overpaid for it. And it doesn't make any sense. It's overpaid and it doesn't work on this team. It doesn't make sense to have him.
It doesn't work for where the team is now.
Right. That's all I've ever said. I just,
But
if we had a good team, if we had Giannis and Zion, it would make a ton of sense. We don't
But
have
the
those
market for when he signed it is within
guys. It didn't
range.
make any sense for that team either. We went over
No,
that.
but
Hang on, Mark. Let me go, and I'm gonna let you go. Right? If your plan was Ben Simmons is my primary ball handler, then Mikal Bridges is my primary scorer, and Cam Thomas, who I want to trade, who I wish death upon every day, is my secondary scorer. And then after that, Cam Johnson is my fourth option, and that's a high caliber team. You need to be fired, right? You need to be fired. I said the same thing when my Jets drafted Zach Wilson. At that moment, right then and there, okay, Joe Douglas, everything in your office goes in a box. Security is going to escort you. Just leave. You don't know how to do this. You just no excuses. Just leave. If you thought Ben Simmons as your ball handler, Bridges as your primary scorer, Cam Thomas as your secondary scorer, and then Cam Johnson was a competitive NBA team, no need for explanation. Put all of your stuff in a box. Security is going to escort you out. You no longer have a job here. You're fired.
Okay, but look, I hear everything that you're saying, but we saw Ben Simmons as an all-star before. We've seen high impact, high level Ben Simmons play the game of basketball, right? We've seen
We've
that.
seen Paul George as an all-star too. Do you want to bring Paul
Yeah,
George?
when I was in college, Mark, that was a long time
No,
ago.
it wasn't in college. It wasn't.
Let him go.
What I'm saying is, we saw Ben, like the concept of it was Ben Simmons is gonna get healthy after the back surgery. It never materialized, and we know that. But at the time, like, you can't watch Ben Simmons in Philly and say, "Wow, he was like he sucks." Like it wasn't.
He's a good player in Philly.
He was a good play. He was a good player in Philly. That's what I'm saying. And then now Bridges, his time, like you said, he looked like a second option guy. Like you could build around him. He looked foundational piece, right? And Cam Thomas, by your own admission too, you're saying Cam Thomas looked like he could be a starter in this league and a bucket getter. Like, I mean, and he has to some degree. Just circumstances changed things a little bit for him. Coaching staff overturn and health. Like a lot of it is predicated on that. Why he hasn't blossomed the way a Tyler Hero has. You know, that's what I'm saying. And Cam Johnson is a complimentary guy at the time. He's not a guy that you like. He's not a, like you're saying, like a Zion or like all those guys. Like he's not that level of a guy, but he is valuable. That's all I'm saying. Like I'm not saying you guys are far off. All I'm saying is like the bashing of him as a player. It's not that shit gets me tight. Hearing John
It's
say
throwing out
scam.
facts, Mark. We're not hating on the guy
No,
purposely. We're just saying that he's not a leader of this team. The way that Marks is trying to spin it is
but
that Johnson is this veteran that is going to take us somewhere. How many iterations will he be a part of this team at age 30, Mark? That's what me and Gary going, this doesn't make any sense. He's going to be 30 next year. How many iterations is he going to fit when we're ready to compete when he's 35?
I hear what you're saying. I hear what
I
you're
no
saying.
longer under contract. Mark, let me ask. I'll let John respond. Moving forward, they could have traded him at the deadline. They could have traded him at any point. They didn't. So, what is his role on the team moving forward, knowing that Sean Marks isn't going to trade him?
I guess it's starting until they get an offer they can refuse. That's the only reason that makes sense right now.
Mark, I'm going to let you finish because you're our guest, and I appreciate you coming into the Lions Den. Knowing Marks isn't going to trade him, and he's going to turn 30, what is his role on this team?
But what is it that's saying that he's not going to trade him? If we land Cooper Flag is the wing that we want. Like, we want him taking those 13 or 14 shots a game. We don't want Cam Johnson doing it at that point. Like, that's what I'm saying.
I'm gonna answer the question, and I'll push it back to you. What makes me think he's not going to trade him? The fact that he's refused to trade him every step of the way, and then he said he likes him. And when he likes you, he signs you, like Patty Mills and Joe Harris, but not Bruce Brown. So I'm going to let you respond. Why is he not going to trade him? Because he refuses to trade him in the past and likes him. Go ahead. I'll give you the last word.
I don't know if he's going to trade him or not. I think a lot of it depends on the lottery outcome. A lot of it depends on, what becomes available. Like, just playing out a scenario, let's say, right? Let's say we land Cooper Flag, right?
Mm-hmm.
And fast forward to trade deadline next year. Who's to say Zion isn't healthy? New Orleans isn't playing well, and we trade Cam Johnson and an expiring deal for Zion. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he still has value, whether it's now, whether it's at the trade deadline next year, at the draft. Like, he still has value, and you can't discredit that. And by calling him scam, like, that's just, it's not a scam. A scam is a guy that, like a Jerome James. He was a little flash in the pan. He got his money and peaced out on you, and he never was that guy again. That's all I'm saying in regards to Cam Johnson. That's it.
Where would you rank Johnson in the NBA right now, Mark, based on his whole career right now? Where would you rank him? Top 50, top 100, 200?
Top 100, somewhere in the top 100.
He's not.
No, I'm asking Mark because the way Mark always keeps defending him is like he thinks he's.
You got to put him somewhere. I mean, he's in that tier of talent. Like, you got. I mean, going number by number, I don't know, but he has value, is what I'm saying. Like, John, you can't look at Johnson play and say he sucks.
No, listen, I agree. He's a valuable role player, but as far as being a main macroration of our team, I don't see it right now. That's why you got to trade him this summer.
He's not. He wasn't signed to be a main guy. He's not built as a lame.
No, he was signed to be a main guy. Remember, Marks thought him and Bridges would be our Jaylen Brown and Tatum. We were just a star away. That was fool's gold right there. So they were not. He's a supporting role player like Bridges.
That was just them trying to sell the fan base on something. That
exactly. That's the problem, Mark.
But nobody looked at Bridges and Johnson as Tatum and Brown. Like, there was no realm as that anywhere.
Yeah, but that was desperation on their part, Mark. They should have thought a lot smarter as soon as they came to
John, you're right. It was desperation. They were reeling from the blow up of the big three. Yeah, they made that little playoff run to play against Philly, and just they figured, let's just see if Ben Simmons comes back healthy. Let's see what this roster and rotation is going to look like going forward, and let's see. And last year, like, regardless of where the record stands, last year was the worst season of watching Nets basketball in since they moved to Brooklyn, in my opinion. It was so unenergetic. It was just so lethargic. It was just bad across the board.
I want to answer player one's question. Can it really be called empty stats if it's on very good efficiency? Yes, just like Joe Harris and Anthony Moore were empty stats. Well, the only thing that you can do, right, just like DeAndre Jordan,
they were never putting up 20 points a game, though, Gary.
Jericho Sims, and Jericho Sims standing in front of the basket and only dunking and having an 8% usage rate, but shooting 70%. It doesn't matter. It doesn't add anything, right? Like, all you're doing is standing at the 3-point line, shooting open shots. Yes, you're a good knockdown shooter. Agreed. Like, so is Anthony Moore and Joe Harris. Like, what does that mean to me? That's not worth $22 million.
Right. And the thing is this, the only two guys that have been here longer since Marks and Joe took over are Thomas and Claxton. One, who's a contract clearly is not working. The other, we don't know if the organization truly values him like that. We'll find out this summer. Like, until this organization can start building pieces, getting pieces that actually want to be committed here for a long time. I can't see us being a serious team right now because we need that. You have to have buy-in from everybody that's going to be here. If you don't have that on a season basis, what are we doing? We're just shuffling the deck until we hope we land a jackpot trio again that can carry us to the promised land, barring injury or toxicity. We can't do that. We need to
But
figure
who's
out a
the
way to
only
better the experience
uh,
style in this
like
organization.
if you go one by one, who's the one guy you say and you're watching, you're saying he should not be on the Nets next year? Like he's god awful. He should not be here next year.
Jalen
It's
Wilson and Keon Johnson and Reese Beekman.
nah. It's got to be Claxton. It's got to be Claxton.
All right,
He's
yeah.
one of them we've been
Okay,
debating.
so
We're debating that.
there's a lot of them. That wasn't an exhaustive list. That was just off the top of my head. Do you want any of those? Do you want Jalen Wilson, Keon Johnson, or Reese Beekman back next year?
Jalen Wilson, I think he's shown what he is. Like he's not
Which is
he's
not
not
an
a
NBA player.
he's not an NBA level. Yeah, he's a guy that could be fun to watch in the summer league. He could probably dominate the G League to some degree, but he's not next level. You know, he's not of the one percenters. You know, in terms of basketball players at professional athletes. He's
And
not that guy.
Keon Johnson? And Keon Johnson?
Keon Johnson, I think he's grown to play a role and has the trust of Jordy not to play a big role. I think he's going to be back next season just on just on his defensive effort, his athleticism. He's shown he could hit the three a little bit to some degree, but like he's not that he's going to light it up, but I given his contract and where like the trust and the value that he has with the coaching staff, I could see Keon Johnson coming back.
So
Here's a
Keon
question for you,
Johnson.
Mark. Who's closer to Bruce Brown?
I just want to be factual, right? Because he likes Cam Johnson for his efficiency. Let's look at Keon Johnson's efficiency.
No.
No,
There we go.
On,
Hey, about it.
but
Hang on. I'm gonna let you respond. So he's got 37-30 shooting splits. His effective field goal percentage is 45.6. Go ahead. Which is, by the way, he's at about his career averages. So this is what he does for his career. Go ahead.
how would you rate his defense, his on-ball defense, and his effort, and just off-ball, even blindside blocks, playing weak side defense? Like, where would you rank?
Love his
Like,
energy. Love his energy.
that's what,
and
that's all I'm saying. Like, and in terms of the $2 million cap hit that he has for next,
that's not enough in today's NBA. Well, I
No,
always do this with boxers. Hang on. I always do this with boxers. Right? People say, look, he's fast, he's twitchy. Yes, he's an athlete who boxes. He's not a boxer. Keon Johnson is an athlete who plays basketball. He's not a bowler.
yes. But what I'm saying is,
he's no good. He's no good, Mark.
in terms of no, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm not saying he's not a rotation guy in the modern NBA, not by any stretch of the imagination.
Player. There are better players in the G League than Keon Johnson.
I don't know about that. I think he's a fringe guy. Like that's what I'm saying. Like for a $2 million cap hit, I see them bringing him back just on the strength of they like his defensive effort. The same way you just said that you like his effort as a 15th man, and he has coaching staff familiarity, and why not bring him in? Like that's all I'm saying.
I'll prove to you right now. There's better G League players in the G League right now. John, you got one roster spot left. You got two guys for that one roster spot: Killian Hayes or Keon Johnson. Who you giving the last roster spot to?
Killian Hayes. I like to take commander. No, but I have a question for you, Mark. Who's closer to Bruce Brown in your mind? Zaire Williams or Keon Johnson? Who's closer to the Bruce Brown role out of those two?
I think Bruce Brown's game is not even similar to either one of them at all, to be honest.
I'm talking about versatility. I'm talking about because you look at Zaire Williams this year, he got away from the mid-range shot.
Zaire's 3-and-D. He's playing with his wingspan and he's knocking down the corner three. He's not giving you on ball, playmaking like Brown was. Like Brown filled a good role. Like he thrived in it. I don't see Zaire in that type of role at all. Like I see him more of
he's a
just
dunker, switchability. He could start and come off the bench. I see that with Zaire. I don't know if Keon Johnson is a backup for us at this point.
Keon definitely not either.
Energy,
like neither one of them are on that tier of like. But I feel like Zaire, the same thing, that the defensive effort, on ball pressure, just hustle, and his growth from when he first got here to where he is now. I like what I see. He is a guy that has had some blue chip. You know, he was a lottery guy. He has the talent. It's just, you know, putting it all together. I see him coming back in a backup wing role. I don't see him being a starter and you know, for us going forward like next year or beyond that. But I see
Like
him
a bench
coming off
guy.
the
Yeah.
bench. Yeah,
All right.
I like that off the
I got
bench.
to wrap this up. I had to wrap this up 20 minutes ago. 22
Oh,
minutes
this is a
ago.
fun show, man. We had some
I
great
got
debates
to
today,
wrap
man.
this up.
Good
Mark, I
debate.
always appreciate you coming on, man. Thank you for
All
fighting this
good,
fight.
guys. All good.
It was
Thank you
fun,
guys
Mark,
for
today.
having
It
me.
was fun. It was fun.
All right. It's
No
March
problem,
Guys.
man. Be
25th,
well.
2025 from Texas to the world. Thank you and God bless.
Peace.